Heyo, Chris, Liege of Games. What? What's that? Sporting that on this day? Yeah, that's right. If you saw this shirt, if you didn't see this shirt, that's okay. Originally, Lord of the Board, if you're familiar with him at all, was the model for this shirt that was just recently released by Leader Games. And now that I got my copy, I thought this was very appropriate attire for talking about the crowdfunding games this week with Leader Games' latest upcoming release, ARCS. I mean, everything else too. Maybe should I swap out my shirt when I talk about Batman for my Batman shirt? Because I got a Batman Boba Fett combo shirt going on as well in the closet. So yeah, I could bling it out here. Breach, pull out my L. I don't have anything for Breach. I'm just messing with you. Castles of Burgundy, I can pull out my button down. No, I don't. Okay, getting fancy, right? Fancy castles, fancy. Anyway, that's all I got. Okay, let's get into it. Smash the like button. What should I call this segment? I don't want to copy other people's. Board Game Co. does the to back or not to back, but I don't really give like to back or not to back, right? I don't say you should back this or you need to back this or this is the pure value. So what should I call this? I'm thinking of maybe just going with Kickstarter, not Kickstarter, sorry, can't do that anymore. It's just ingrained like Google. Crowdfunding opinions, crowdfunding thoughts, crowdfunding diatribes. I don't know. You know what I'm saying. But that sort of thing. So, there you go. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I'm not clever about those things. I'm very concrete when it comes to that aspect. That's enough blabbing. Smash the like button. It lets YouTube and other people, like board gamers like yourself on YouTube, know that this is something worth watching, though. So, let's go. Let's get into it. Before we go any further, though, I just want to acknowledge when I said the money was going to flow, folks, I wasn't kidding. I mean, this is just on Kickstarter. We haven't even looked over at where Castles of Burgundy is. And when I'm pulling this page up for you, we're 12 hours-ish into these campaigns. Not even for some of them at this point. So imagine where this is actually going to be by the end of this. ARCS is already at 680. This is probably close to 680 because this is in euros. And again, 200,000 euros here for the Breach is not insignificant. Now, I don't know if Ludus Magnus was shooting higher or lower than that, because it's definitely lower than a couple of their others like Nova Aetos and Black Rose Wars, but I mean, we'll see, right? We'll get to Gamefound in a minute here. We'll naturally go over them in a second for Castles of Burgundy, but let's stay right here and do these three very quickly. Who am I kidding? This is not going to be quick. I am going to ramble and rant. I mean, let's go into it, right? Let's go to ARCS. Let's start right there and see where things are at. Now, $680,000. You may say, okay, that's a little higher than I expected. It's a little lower expected, in line of Root and Oath and all of those sorts of things. But it's averaging out to about $100 a pledge, which is very interesting. And why is that interesting? Because if you look down here, and we'll get into this a little bit further, 3 to 4 player game, 90. Now, why is that interesting, though? We'll talk about that in a second. But the other thing I have to point out right here, 3 to 4 players. Biggest barrier right there. Now, I have 3 kids, so I'm just going to buy this game and save it for a dozen years. So that's my plan. Anyway, why am I saying that $100 pledge is not insignificant? Because, why am I saying and focusing on that $100 pledge? Because it really shows you, again, what are the pledge levels? You'd say, okay, the most biggest pledge must be $100, Chris. Well, no, the base game is $60. Okay. The campaign expansion is an extra 40. Yeah, the more to explore pack is like some additional cards. But the pledge level, the all in here is 150, and that's a miniature pack $50. That's not a ton of people comparatively getting the miniatures. When we have seen miniatures versus non-miniatures, now you're going to go, Chris, that's still about 50%. You're right, that is about 50%. But that's not the proportion of things that we are used to seeing when games are offering miniatures versus non-miniatures. Miniatures versus standees. Miniatures versus meeples. Miniatures versus nothing. And we'll talk about that later when we get to Castles of Burgundy, because they have a miniature versus non-miniature version too. And I guarantee you, I haven't looked at that page yet. I haven't even looked at it. I heard the comments, but I haven't looked at it. And I'm guaranteeing you that the percentage is not going to be anywhere near close to this. Right? Right. 60 to 120 minutes. This is a campaign game in line of Oath. 3-session campaign game. You can play it standalone, or you can play it over several games. Now, again, The question, sort of like Oath, sort of like some of the root stuff, is that what they have put out there, in the hands of the previewers, including Space Biff, including Thinker and Themer, including Hungry Gamer, as several of the major ones that are listed on the page, although one of those is not Space Biff, which is interesting because his guy is the top post on Reddit today calling his review, not him calling his review, but someone posting it on Reddit calling it a tepid, as in lukewarm, as in not really that enticed by what it was currently. Now, again, a month or so, 6 weeks ago, of iteration of just the single game alone, but how is it going to evolve since then? And do you trust them to make it more than that between now and the actual delivery? So, and again, his was the single game. Whereas they are really saying the campaign is what this is really going to be a masterclass in, or the real gist of what you want out of this game. But the logistics, due to, broader market appeal, they're offering the single as well for those that may not be as interested in that experience. So, does that make you more, less, or does that even affect you? No, I don't really think it does. This is the action system I talked about when I was breaking down the designer diaries. Trick taking, planning, gambits, all in one. Using your suits, using and copying people who have played before you to get actions. And again, what do you want to win? How do you want to play in more of a, not a 4X, but more of an Oath open space tech tree-esque game? And we're going to see a little bit more, I think, because the campaign packets got sent out, I think, in the last week or so. I would imagine then that you're going to see a couple of those videos, issues pop up as well. What happens when a game like this launches on crowdfunding if you're subscribed to the page in Board Game Geek? Because you end up with all of these questions and iterations and comments of, I think they should have this, or I don't think they should have this, or why did they do this? And all the, all the Tuesday morning quarterbacks telling companies how to run their campaigns. Anyway, back to this. Dimensions, you start out with a dying empire and you're diverging, like I said. Branching, twisting, turning away. And how much of that do you like? Again, here's the stuff, but here is the noticeable absence of Space Biffs on here. Well, now, let me interject right here, because this is the update that I just threw the title. Now, let me interject right here, because now, 2 days later, Thinker Themer, then Space Biffs. Very interesting. They didn't mention this. I looked at both the updates. They don't mention the fact that they didn't have Space Biffs up there until it got all of the mention and all of the discussion. Cole actually went out on Twitter defending it. And Dan even went further and said, yeah, I liked the game a lot, and I didn't like the game a lot. But the problem I have with this is not that it wasn't included, not that it's included now. I mean, they have the right to change this whenever, however they want. But Cole also went very publicly on Twitter and said they wanted to avoid the major hype channels. But then the first time around, when you don't have the main one that critiques it, the main criticism, because all the rest of these are really relatively positive, you don't have it around the first time around. I mean, I'm glad that they remedied that, oversight, because then I would have some problems with his words of avoiding the Kickstarter hype train and the overly positive, because initially that's all you had on the page. The fact that they've included this now makes me feel better about it from that aspect. Not that, again, my opinion matters on any of this, but they're making it cohesive in terms of what they say and what they do. So there you go. You can do, and this is the big thing that I have always said about Leader Games has been really good, the rules, the print and play, tabletop simulator. There you go. So if you want to try it out in its current state, you can. And I guarantee that there'll probably be modifications between even now and the end of the campaign based on feedback that they're getting from here on the Discord, but also just from the comment section as well. So that's everything. That's everything. All the other stuff and, everything that you need to know in ARCS, but you can guarantee I'll be covering it, and I maybe even do should you back, shouldn't you back video as well. So there you go. Now, let's talk about Batman. I looked at this page earlier. And again, I'm going to give you my Liege spin on things because this needs to be addressed. It needs to be talked about. It needs to be mentioned. So again, almost $600,000, which is really good, actually. I think this is a really good turnaround for them compared to season 2. This is a positive endorsement because season 2 and season 1, they kind of fell off. And I think it took them a while to revamp. And Paul Grogan's influence is definitely showing on the confidence that people have at backing at this point. However, this is it right here. This is the elephant in the room. What is this campaign for, right? It's a board game, right? RPG second, licensed role-playing game, miniature board game. Okay, great. Yeah. Role-playing game, okay. Role-playing game. Role-playing game. Role-playing game. Role-playing game. Finally, board game. Now, this is the core from season 1, okay? You get the extra Batman Who Laughs, if you're not familiar with that. It's a dark dystopian world where Batman goes crazy, takes over the role of the Joker. Anyway, I won't get into it. And the all-in for season 3, again, very respectable prices for both of these, 125 euros, 119 euros. This has more of a campaign system, as well as a solo / co-op mode. If you look at the wording on this, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense here, but when you go dive down into the description below, it allows you basically to play as, instead of one versus all, it's an AI system so that everybody can be on the same team and you can go up against the game itself. But it's just a weird naming of it from that. And then they also, down below, will explain each of the other expansions, the campaign system, the bigger one, and then the smaller one. And then they talk about season 1 and season 2 are going to be in the pledge managers, not to overwhelm people with options and choices. So take that for what you will with the funding right now, because none of that money is season 1 or season 2 extras, which is interesting. You could use it to prop this up falsely if you really wanted to, but they chose not to. And so I give them a lot of kudos for not doing that, because you see a lot of other games and companies do that, where they offer like a whole plethora of their catalog, and like 50% of the money on it is like stuff from their previous catalog rather than the game. Again, back to the RPG here. Board game and RPG. Board game and RPG. RPG, RPG, RPG. RPG. Those are the stretch goals right now. So what I'm saying here is there is a lot more focus on the RPG than the board game right now on this page, at least the impression of that. Because again, this is all game as well. All game as well. We have not even hit any of the board game stuff. We have to get almost halfway down the page before we get any explanation of the new board game stuff, which is, again, how you wanted to structure it. And if you're getting a lot of support from the RPG side of things, well then, yeah, I mean, I guess you played your strength. But as a board game person, when you tell me, when you emphasize to me on the other updates, on the other campaigns, about the new stuff and how we're excited about this stuff, and I figured it was going to be this with some RPG, not vice versa. And it just makes me go, where is the core of things? Where is all the emphasis that you're putting? Is it on both? Does that make me as concerned, as I was previously with the fixes? I don't know. Batman Who Laughs, again, you get that with everyone. You get the new rule books. The revised rulebook is right here. Again, Gotham City in Flames, that's the campaign one with the branching narratives with a couple mystery boxes. And then they branch down here in terms of the other stuff you can get. Again, the campaign missions that you can go through. Is this the separate one? No, this is the same one. Then the Bat Computer, this is all the updated stuff, essentially. The updated rulebooks, the player aids, and the mission booklets. For basically everything, not just the core stuff. The Narrow Chronicles 2, this is the smaller campaign version. I think this allows you to play as villains as well, throughout all the other villains that are in the whole season 1 and season 2. Like I said, solo cooperative mode, talks about that there. Anarchy, another villain that you can get there. And then here's the reprint where they talk about the full list of contents here and here. They actually link to the previous Kickstarter pages. And then they have some old reviews, I believe. Old how to plays, old reviews of all the original stuff. So that's about it. I mean, shipping is going to be expensive for whatever this is going to be. I mean, if you're getting some of the bigger ones, it's going to cost you $50. You just got to be aware of that. And are you willing to pay that? I don't know. For the amount of money it would take me to get back in, I'd have to see some reviews first at this point. I'd be willing to buy somebody else's pledge, buy some of the season 2 stuff, buy some of the core of season 1, and smattering maybe the campaign of season 3. But I just can't spend that much money on a game that I just can't guarantee from a cooperative standpoint that we're going to love. Even with the AI system, even with the new updated rules, even with the supposed flexibility. I want to see that flexibility in play first before I probably go through it. As tempting as this is, I'm probably going to be passing. So there you go. We'll see, though. I mean, I'm not going to rule it out, but it's going to have to show me something else. The Breach. Now we have Ludus Magnus. Expert hacker. Secret system, trying to get information. Miniature based. It is competitive, though, not cooperative. And that was probably the biggest surprise to me when I was hearing about this in the first place. 1 to 4 players. Now, this is the positive. 25 minutes per player. That's really good for a crawl-esque game. You're going in as a breacher, trying to get your faction interests of hacking whatever you need to do. So, 48-hour early bird. By the time you guys are watching this, it'll be past. So you're hacking in, you're avoiding guardians, you're crawling with resource management, set collection, and variable powers. Now, again, I like those because it reminds me less of a crawl, like slug them out, slash them up, and more of an actual management game. And we don't have a lot of that. And I think that's why Tamashii initially appealed to people, because we don't have the theme with the aesthetic and the gameplay in that combination. And it's pretty. I mean, no one's going to accuse Ludus Magnus of not having very aesthetically pleasing games. So the question just is, how does it actually play? And what is the price point? Because I haven't looked at this at all. This is the first time I'm looking at this, folks, with you guys. Now, Ludus Magnus reached out to me and said that they might have a prototype copy for me before the end of the campaign. So I may be able to have some hands-on for you guys, but we'll see where it goes. Let's see. What do we actually got here? Expansion, introducing co-op mode. I worry about this because I want a fully fleshed out co-op mode. I don't want an add-on that makes it kind of okay, right? There's nothing more that irritates me when you try to shoehorn modes into games that they really aren't meant for, which is why when you go back to ARCS over here, I appreciate that they say, you know what, we're not doing a solo mode. This is a 3 to 4 player game. If you want to play it 3 to 4 players, go ahead. If that's not the player count for you, you're probably better off with another game. And I appreciate that. And so this is the only thing that worries me there. So €119 pledge. This includes the core box and the stretch goals. Does that include the expansion then too? So you need the Prometheus expansion to do the cooperative. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for both modes. I mean, there's 1,000 people getting that. That's $170. That's over $200 including shipping. So this better be doing something completely different from an actual gameplay standpoint, because if I'm going to pay that much money, I want something that's not going to be similar to the stuff I already have. Comboing, objectives, triggering firewalls with dice actions, skills with the asymmetric powers. So I'm looking through the rulebook here. We'll just pull this up real quick. And it's a 36-page rulebook, but you can see I'm already on page 12 before you get into the actual like setup of the game. So it's not nearly as long as it appears. You have this database right here that is the setup, essentially the room grid, where you are searching, trying to find your information that you need in order to hack and, win, with different tiles and different tower rooms that you are going to be able to go through. Then you have the firewall. So this reminds me a little bit more already of Burn Cycle than it does Tamashii. Firewall doesn't tell us what the firewall is, but it tells you the setup here. Then we get down here into how the game actually plays. It reminds me a little bit almost, and this is going to be a weird comparison, but just based on what it is the person to your left, essentially, is going to be holding the password. And so they're going to be taking essentially the turn of the game after you take your turn during the breacher right here, the action phase and then the net phase. The action phase of where you're choosing all of your actions of your avatar, and then the net phase where you're configuring your avatar, trying to take care of control of said nodes that I mentioned up above. The firewall turn there, you're showing then that the players who are connected draw an activation card, and then that's sort of what happens to them. Objectives are things that you have to win the game, but again, it breaks it down here into the actual actions or the skills that you can be taking in terms of revealing rooms, moving, activating, and attacking. And then it goes through the other things you can do, including configuring and infecting the room with your own type of virus. Upgrading your characters, stealing information, and then it goes into here is the firewall the database is protected by. And there's going to be 3 different types of bots that they say that are going to be protecting it in terms of the cards that are going to be there. So you're resolving the actions, you're deploying them, and they're going to be attacking you and trying to take you out. So that's a cool looking Guardian, by the way, right there. Runs a little bit more into how you attack and you defeat and how you get rewards and reconnected. So yeah, there you go. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I love the thought of this. I'm going to have to see now. I would assume we're going to see a bunch of early bird expansion right there. That's the one that was the 48-hour one. Prometheus expansion is there. Here we go. I'm probably going to be watching some of these videos, especially depending on if I or when I get a copy of the prototype, because I don't really know right now. I don't really know how this plays. I want to see how action smooth and dynamic this is, especially player to player. How take that is it? How interactive is it? How manipulating is it on the board? What do the mechanics look like in a streamlined manner? So we'll see. I'm interested though. I can't rule it out. I'm definitely going to hit remind me on this one. I'm not logged in, which is why you did not see my pledge level on ARCS. That makes sense right now. And that's it. I mean, again, going to watch this one. You're going to watch this one closely to see where it goes come 2 weeks from now. So there you go. Let's hit it, folks. Castles of Burgundy. It's killing it so far. It is right now winning the bet on the over-under for last week. I said Castles of Burgundy or the field. So Castles of Burgundy right now is winning. They are doing the daily unlocks, Awaken Realms is. No, I don't believe they're doing the monetary ones, though I haven't looked at this page. So you're going to see my first reactions here. And it looks like, I'm assuming since this is day 1, they're not even doing daily unlocks. They're doing every other day. Okay, we'll see though. I mean, this is the 17th best game on Board Game Geek ranking-wise. The main question, the main debate is, how much of this game do you love? Is an upgraded aesthetic and deluxification worth a potentially 4 to 5 times price point of a game that's not out of print that you can buy right now and play tomorrow? And that's the question you have to ask yourself. This is not, and the closest thing I can compare it to is Ra, which is a reprinting, thematic, art-wise incorporation. But you can make an argument that Ra is out of print. Now you can say that I'm going to wait for Ra to get it at retail, and yeah, it's going to be more like Castles of Burgundy. Well, if you're in that crowd, then, I mean, you wouldn't be interested in this, right? But I've had people in the comment section I've read already say, I have Castles of Burgundy Edition 1 or Anniversary Edition, whichever one. I am happy with that. I've played it tons of time, and I don't need to buy a new, prettier version. And I've also seen people say that this is my most played game, or I've played this game 37 times, and I would love a better, fancier, prettier version of it as well. So it's not even clear, even in the people who love it and play it a ton, what side of the fence that the majority of them are falling on. I don't know. I guess here is the other controversial thing, that there's a no miniature version. We'll just skip right down to it, right? 85 euros, and the pledge with miniatures is only 95. So $10. The other aspect that they've said in the comment section in the FAQ was that the shipping and the box size, whether you get miniatures or not, is going to be exactly the same. So yeah, right? And then the all-in, this is sun-dropped for another 50 euros. I'm assuming there's other things too. What does it say? Let's see. Upgraded hex tiles and a playmat too. So okay, it's more than just that. But let's take a look at this a second. What are all these stretch goals going to be? Why do I need a whole second box for it? Is this just going to be upgraded everything deluxified? Acrylic hex tiles are nice. Playmat's super nice. Don't need Sundrop though. It's cool looking, but don't need it. So where does that put us? Let's go back up here. Let's scroll our way down though. One of the big complaints I saw was that these miniatures are covering up the ability to read what's easily on the tiles, which is fair. Extra surprises though. I want to see what these extras are. This is one that, again, I don't rule it out, but if I just want the gameplay, this is a lot of money for it. And for someone like me who's on the fence, I think the argument has to be made that I'm better off going to buy a $20 or $25 edition locally rather than paying $100 for a game I'm not sure of. Now, again, if you want to play the value game, I'm sure if you buy one of the higher levels, you could sell this later. Because if anything, Awaken Realms at some of these higher levels, it resells for higher. Because I don't think this is going to be a widely retail deluxified game. the every other day stretch goal unlock, daily unlocks, whatever you want to call them, bonus tiles here, cloth bag, and double hex tiles. Now, why is this important, and what do you need to know about this? Because apparently some of this is like actually new gameplay content. Right here, the Vineyards expansion, 4 new vineyard boards designed by Stefan Feld. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the new stuff? Now there's a more enticing reason. Now, obviously, this goes with day 1 here. And again, all of the pieces, essentially, they've just broken down the pieces to this expansion, unlocking them slowly. Or, let's be honest, they're revealing them. You know what I'm saying. So that's the thing you have to think about, is how much of this new stuff is going to influence you if the old stuff, the beautification of this, doesn't otherwise. Then it makes the price point a little bit more palatable. Now the question again is going to be, how much of this is going to occur with all of these? Now, I guess it says 4 of 5 unlocked, so they're only doing 5 total? You know, this is going on for another, 18 days? So that's a long time if you're only going to have one more in the next 18 days. But is this any better than the 20th anniversary edition, or whatever edition that was that came out in 2019 with a couple expansions included for $40 right now? I mean, these are cool. They're super deluxeified euros, but that's pretty much it. So then we talk about all the deluxeifications here, and here are the castles. And this is, again, down here it gets a little interesting, right? Monastery rules, okay. So they've got a lot of this other stuff, all existing expansions. If you're getting all of those remade, it's a little better. It's a little bit better. Now, again, it's going to cost you another 25 euros. So you're looking at 120 euros total, $130 shipped, $130 when you can get the base game by itself right now to try it out for 20. There you go. I'm going to cover it. It's going to be a divisive topic. I haven't seen as many people selling their copies as I did with the other games like Everdell and 51st State. So we'll see if this goes any further. Speaking of things, actually, right up at the top there, Bristol Plus, gaming and dining tables. Speaking of things, if any publishers or table companies are watching this, I would be more than happy to be sponsored by a game table company and, have them send me a game table. So instead of sitting on the floor like I am with my computer and my microphone on board game boxes, that'd be awesome. Oh, by the way, next week's video, I did the Q&A, and so I zoom out so you can see. Anyway, it's a mess. Anyway, let's talk about dining and gaming tables. These things do well on crowdfunding. I just can never tell, like, the differences. Is this a good one? Is this not a good one? How better is this one than the other one? This one's adjustable. It fits to you. Modular everything. Acrylic. All the types of wood that you can imagine. It's beautiful to look at. Now, I don't really like the bench idea. I like chairs better myself, but I don't also do the inlay. I just, regular flat table. I don't like reaching down or reaching up. Like those other like table inserts that were like above the table. Those never interest me either. I just like the flat table where you could just have at the same level reaching across personally. But I mean, they're beautiful to look at. I would love one. But again, I don't really have a great place for something that big. Like I can do like a 3x3 or a 4x4 probably in this room, but that's probably about it. So let's see what we got here. Okay. These are a little bit bigger there. It's about a 4x6 there, 4x6. So these are all a little bit too big for me. I think this Bristol coffee would maybe fit in here. That's probably the only one that would fit. Again, what's the price point for these? Yeah, I mean, okay. The Bristol coffee, the cheapest one is about, what is that? $700. That's not bad. And they just go up from there. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys like this sort of thing? Does this thing appeal to you on a crowdfunding? Or are you one of those people that I kind of feel weird not having a hands-on with furniture? So it's kind of like buying a couch. Like I kind of want to like test it out and see how it actually feels when I sit down or try to use it. But anyway, not nearly as much as some of the other ones we've seen, but I never see these fail to fund well over their funding goals. So I would be surprised if this doesn't continue to go up. And I guess the only question is Gamefound exposure versus Kickstarter. Is this having that effect or not? We'll see. Blaseball, the card game. I have no idea this, but it's almost funded. 17,000 of 25,000. For 8 innings, 2 teams have matched each other. It's the 9th inning, and you're just trying to win the game. And it's a card game, which is a little bit different. I like that. Card-driven, dice-rolling, superpowered, triggering battle. I'm intrigued already. Okay. Minimalistic information, horror-based mechanics, intensely creative fan base. I have no idea what this is about at all. I've seen other games that are in the sports, but I have no idea how this compares. I'm assuming if this is a baseball game, 1 team on each side, this is going to be a 2-player game. I didn't see that up top, but that's what I would guess. It's a good price point. Wow. And 24 cards, 14 players, 10 specials. Play a card each side, reveal it. Adding dice, having special powers to bend or break the rules in your favor, and countless ways to manipulate or force rerolls. So I wasn't intending to like this at all whatsoever. I would like this. Okay. I will be checking out the full rules here in a second. I know a lot of people were sort of like talking about this intermittently on some of the social media, but I didn't know much about it, and I kind of poo-pooed it. I just kind of, whatever. But now I'm actually intrigued because I take that sort of asymmetric, I don't really say sports-based, but sports thematically based game. I'll take that. Okay, Gamefound. Okay, Blaseball. You've got me interested. And the artwork is not off-putting. I kind of like the aesthetic. So, now, I don't like some of this. This is kind of probably the thing I may have to look into a little bit more detailed. Because, you can make it horror-esque without being grotesque. So I'm going to have to look into this. This might be the turnoff, but I mean, the price point seems okay. I completely skipped it, I guess. Yeah, 20 euros. So 20 pounds, sorry. I'm going to check this one out. I'm going to look at some rules later, and I'm going to watch some video. Wasn't expecting to like this at all, but maybe a little bit too dark for me. Because if it's got those elements, I'm not going to play it with the kids. I'm not. Even when they get older. So, wife game or 1-player, 2-player game night game, but I have a lot of other stuff too. And if it's darker and the thematic incorporation doesn't feel good, I'll just go play Exceed. I'll just go play Talk. I don't have to worry about that with any of those. So we'll see. Blaseball. Check it out. Next up, Bananaya, the card game. Now, you may go, Japanime Games, already funded, again, over on Kickstarter. They've gone back and forth. They just had Blade Rondo over on Gamefound. So kind of weird that they're kind of going back and forth. I wonder if that was intentional or if they thought that maybe this would have more of a wide mass appeal, because this is also based off a show, and that's why you see the little logo right here of Crunchyroll. 20 to 30 minutes, 2 to 4 player card driven game where you're trying to get 10 different types of these Bananayas. So can you get all of them first? That's essentially all you're doing. Kickstarter exclusive expansion pack if you're buying it here, and it just runs through what the game is. I mean, if we pull the rulebook up here a second, you just get 7 cards in your hand. All you're doing is you're drawing from the deck or the litter box, and then you play a card to your litter box and immediately resolve the power. Now you just have to get 10 different Bananayas on any player's turn and shout it, but apparently you can not have it as well. So I think we're missing something in translation of the rules here, because you can also like force other people to discard and interact with them in some way. So I'm not sure if you just like have 7 down in front of you and then 3 different ones in your hand or what. So I think you'd need to check out one of these videos or one of the reviews here to get an idea of what it actually does, because I don't get that sense from that brief of a rule book. Now, maybe it's completely intuitive and that makes a lot of sense when you actually have the cards, but over right now it doesn't. Well, $15 is the basic pledge, which is interesting because we're at $11,000 with 214 people, which means we have a lot of people at this higher pledge level. Like right here, holy cow, all of these expansion packs for $60. So do you need all of the expansions? What do all the expansions add? Add-ons. Extra copy, expansion pack, Elder Wisdom, Sweet Pack. Again, I don't see, what these are. And they're only 15 cards. They're $5 each, but that's not inexpensive either. So I guess this fandom is pretty well thought of there. So, it's already funded, and we'll see just how high it goes. There you go. Next up, 44 BCE. 2 to 5 players, already funded, strategy, tabletop game. You are one of up to these 5 military historical icons or leaders. You're vying for control of Rome. 6 rounds. Biggest empire is going to win at that point. We'll see what we got here. A little bit of miniature, the standard edition versus the miniature edition. $59, $109. Whew. That's a big difference between price point there. Add-ons, 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 stretch goals, gameplay. So we finally get down to the gameplay here. Building, producing, and listing can't have more than a certain amount of resources. Okay, you're just listing actions there. That doesn't really give me a great thing. Playthroughs, rulebook, previews. So you're launched. Okay, here we go. That's okay. I was a little concerned there that you launched without a whole bunch of videos. So a bunch of quotes. I don't get a good sense though. I wish there was something else more on the page. Like, show me why this is different than any other Civilization Rome-based game that's out there, right? So you pull up the rulebook here, and this looks like it's got a lot more going on. I mentioned the 6 rounds, essentially, right? The 6 years. But if you look over here, this is not just an iconography page. This is the 9 rounds, or this is the 9 phases that you were going through in each and every round, including negotiation and, you know, potentially some allegiances that you're making or breaking against the person who is the IM or the Imperium Maius that round. And then they break down all of the different phases here. So this is a lot. Again, you're going to be having allegiances, how you play your influence. So this is not just a simple Euro game. There's a lot going on here. So check this out, because the page does not do it justice in terms of how deep this game actually looks and how more complex it actually is compared to what's actually on the page itself. Definitely not for me, but give it a look-see. Card slicers. Quick combat with dice and cards. I mean, it's funded. $5,000. Toy Pizza, Knights of the Slice, card slicers. I have no clue what any of that means. I'm just getting old. Old man shouting from his lawn. Card slicers gameplay. So what are we doing here? 7 expansion packs already planned out with 9 cards and 9 artifact cards. Every 5k I hit, you know, get another expansion. That's it. That's it. It has stats, and I'm assuming you play the cards against each other, doing something. Apparently, it's got some backing though, because $5,000 with 76 people with that little information on the page. There you go. Now, next up is Brand New Zoo. This one is sort of in the line of Voyages, one of my favorite games that came out of crowdfunding of 2021. Print and play roll and write zoo building game. 10 different ways to modify it with expansions, alone or together, with like all roll and writes essentially at this point. The only question is, does it hold up gameplay-wise? I mean, aesthetically, it's nothing to look at all, but that's okay if the rulebook and the gameplay holds up. 12 expansion modules, and you get all future gameplay content that comes out for it. So, kind of like Voyages, they've offered a whole bunch of stuff, and people have, you know, made their own afterwards in the line of that. So, rolling 2 dice, use either result, hiring, drawing, or acquiring. Okay. Every animal scores differently. You know, read the full rules. For $4, it's going to be hard for me to pass this one, to be very frank with you guys. I'm willing to give this a shout for $4. The only problem is, again, there's just not a whole lot of actually how it plays here. So you really just kind of got to read the rules to kind of see. So the rules are relatively straightforward here, like it says. You're either drawing, hiring, marking off, essentially, or acquiring an animal, and then you're marking off the necessary zookeepers. You're putting them in the same pens. You can, if you roll doubles, charge admission instead based on the number of animals that you have. And that's about it until you get to the end of the game. Scoring explanations, logarithmic point scoring there, depending on the number of animals that are there. And then they start talking a little bit about the modular expansions here. Now, they don't go into all of these, so I don't really know what all of them are, but they talk about info tents and viewfinders, which are additional things you're going to be drawing on the map. So solo mode down here. Again, they don't really talk about what the other modules are itself. So I'd be curious to see. I mean, if you're going to call 12 modular expansions here, where are they? What are they? I need more info on that, you know. I'm willing to back your product here, but show me some more info on here. Show me why. Show me the dynamic. Show me how this is different than other roll and writes. And I don't see that yet. Speaking of other dark horses, Ukiyo, pocket puzzle card game. It's only 50% funded. Check it out, though. It's only £7. This is a sleeper size card game. 18 cards along the button shy aspect. Solo or 2 to 4 players. You're basically given this objective card right here, and you're trying to match it. and it comes with 50 different curated puzzles from a solo mode that you can do, and there are 4 different difficulty levels when you're trying to do it. So this is a really clever game though, right? You're putting these cards out there, and you have a certain number of cards to start out, and you're overlapping them with other players' cards. And so when you only have one card left, you have to have that arrangement of pieces, symbols, on the board now. And if you do, you win. So this is really clever. I really like this. I believe it sold out the first time. The rules are right there. That's it, right? I don't think you're going to find it elsewhere in shops. I don't think you're going to find this in the US. I don't think you will. This is one that I look at. I don't know anybody that's going to be, packaging and, having this in an online market unless it blows up. So this is one. So again, this is one that I would really look at and go, you know what? €7 for each, €7, £7 for each initial copy. Maybe I'll just buy like 5 copies and give them away on the channel, right? Just do something like that and just do something cool. I wish, you see all these channels that are like, I'm going to give you a free gameplay pledge of this. I'm going to give you a free gameplay pledge of this. Let's buy a 5-pack of this. Let's go in as a community and let's spread the wealth for somebody who needs the exposure, not just the biggest name out there. So one of these times, I'm really just going to slam one of these guys in terms of, buying 10 copies or something and just put it out there as a cool game, because it reminds me of a better version of a couple of the other small box games that I ended up getting, but getting rid of too. But there were a couple like that people really liked that I was kind of like, meh. And this one looks like a better version. So anyway, this is Ukiyo. Check it out. Next up, I'll talk about Dockfighters. I have no idea. This is a war game, right? 1 to 4 player, co-op versus solitaire. I don't have a clue what this is, but I mention it because I know there are a couple of you guys out there that want this sort of thing and like this sort of thing. I have no idea what this is, how to play it. Again, you're going to be assembling what pilots and what aircraft you want, doing your scenarios on your war game map-like skirmish tabletop version, and then going. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to talk about it because it's killing it, and people must love this sort of thing. But if you want to know more, again, it launched. There you go. But definitely too far outside my wheelhouse to give you more in depth. But I like talking about it, at least mentioning it so people are aware. So there you go. Now we have Bark Avenue. Again, dogs, so it's funded, right? Sort of tongue-in-cheek there, but we've seen like cat and dog-themed games not have any trouble funding lately in the last year or two on crowdfunding. So competitive dog walking game. It's a pick up and deliver with route optimization. And the theme has absolutely nothing to do with anything that I enjoy. I am also not a big pick up and deliver person, so my own personal preferences aside, how different is this game? Is this an actual game that's worth, more than just the pretty aesthetic from a dog loving standpoint? So 4 different New Yorkers delivering this path making route management game. How to play, you're going to be doing all those management things like I talked about. Okay, rolling dice based on your starting location, going in the direction of the slowest speed of your dog, and then dropping them off and performing actions around the neighborhoods that you go through. And you have to obviously walk each of them a different length, and when you've met it, then you can score them. And they're going to be doing encounters and things that are going to change what happens on each turn as you play. So, end game scoring, let's see, whoa, $49. That's a little more than I expected. They have some exclusive stuff, though, they said. So let's see what the exclusive stuff is. The little poop tokens are charming. Okay. Hey, you know what? To each their own. This has absolutely no aesthetic or mechanical interest from my standpoint, but there's enough people out there between the 2 of those that it clearly doesn't have any trouble making it. So we'll see where it goes. You can even submit your own dog as a card. That's cool. I mean, to each their own. I'll put it that way. And I'm completely okay with not everything being good for me. So, yeah, bunch of videos down here, playthroughs. Wow, a ton of stuff. Apparently people and their dogs, right? Even in the board game community. So, it's a thing. It's a thing. Take it for what you will. There's plenty of info. Go check it out. Bark Avenue. Next up, we have Castleshire, which I also talked about last week in the upcoming video. 1 to 6 players, 30 to 45 minutes, over 50% of the way funded. What do we got going on here? You are building, castles, right? Magical guilds competing for building the perfect castle. This is a little bit of what they call down here a light card deduction bluffing game. Now, this is the interesting aspect. No downtime. Symmetric, but using the evolving rules and the behaviors, limited workers, variable powers. It's going to change as you go. Okay, 3 different editions here. I'm assuming that's an expansion. And I'm assuming maybe a wooden box? Okay. What do we got going on here, though, on the actual game side of things? Castle cards you're going to be using to build up the area, fame track, and your workers. Certifiers, cards, components. Upgrade kit. Okay, so that's what that is. That's the upgrade kit, not an expansion. Cloth playmat. Okay. Workers, more certifiers, more stuff. For 5 and 6 players. Okay. But there's new colors as well, so I'm assuming that's gameplay element-wise, or does that not change it? It's kind of hard to tell right there. But it looks like, I mean, clearly there's more gameplay there, regardless. Solo game as well. How do you play, though? How do you play? Again, are these content locked behind this exclusive fan edition? So what are you doing, though? Bluffing, memorizing, thinking ahead, creating your castle. Bluffing here to choose who builds first. Building pieces as you go, facing your challenges, and then checking to see if you've finished to build your castle. So a bluffing of how you think things are going to be built based on the matching assignment cards or cards that don't meet what they need to, essentially. Alternate ways of building are going to be introduced later, and then you score based on the workers and the most valuable chamber within that castle. I need to see a rule book. Expansions here, built-in expansions, okay. Allies, rests, certified chambers, witty guilds. Now, again, the Legendary Edition, which is content locking stuff, and is going to cost you, how much here? $75, comes with 2 other aspects, the Conquerors and the Legends. But again, I mean, this is the part that really matters. So if you're going to have a quote like this down here, this rulebook better be good, right? Now, I like this portion, though. As much as the other top portion was a little bit confusing, I really like this, where they say 2 expansions apply randomness and more strategic planning is going to be necessary. But others are going to be more fortuitous with unpredictability. So you can skip certain ones, and they're telling you which ones are going to be there. So I like that. That's an aspect that I think is highly underrated when these games come out, especially with the expansions, where you're allowing a little bit for everything. Again, solo game, AI system there. Okay. Let's see. Let's go back to this rules now that we've got down to the quotes here. Now that I've looked at the rules, I can give you a better summary of what's here. And the rules are written quite well, actually. As confused as I was about sort of the synopsis on the page itself, the rules are clear cut. So essentially right here, you can see that you have parts of the towers of the castles, and they're numbered 1 through 12. You're going to be bidding essentially at the beginning of the round to see who goes first. As you're going first, you're going to be placing these chambers on certain spots. And this is where sort of it's a little bit of BS, if you will, if you're familiar with BS, right? You say, I have 3 threes, and you put them face down, and everyone else has a chance to say BS, right? Well, you're doing the same thing here with the castles, only what you're trying to do is you're trying to match the number of the card of the chamber that you have to the spot on the board. If you do, well, no one's going to know either way because you're putting it face down, and then they have the opportunity to challenge. If you challenge, you put one of your workers there. Anyone can challenge. More than one person can challenge. If somebody does challenge, you flip it over, and either you're right or you're wrong. If you're wrong, then the person who built it correctly keeps their workers there, and that's where you're going to get the points from. If they called your bluff, they get to keep their workers there. Rinse and repeat, with the key feature being, you'll see it goes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you have to put one in a higher spot, not vertically, but numerically, until several of the end round end game conditions happen, including putting one in the 12 slot, or people running out of assignment cards, everyone running out of workers, or everyone passing. So actually, it seems like a very interesting, different take on the bluffing with a BS focus, right? Now it goes down here into how you can adapt it with the expansions, playing for younger players, or strategy versus luck. And they talk a little bit further about what each of these expansions is going to offer. I'm actually relatively impressed by this. This seems like a different take on the social deduction. And again, I don't know if I would necessarily say no downtime, because, I mean, obviously you have downtime if people are trying to figure out whether or not to block your bluff. But depending on your group, you could definitely have a very quick go. Almost too quick if you've played BS, right? All of a sudden, the next player lays down before you have a chance to think through whether or not you were going to call their bluff. and it's already passed, and they're snickering, you know, laughing at you because they just got away with a big bluff. Now, the price point here, $75, is a little bit higher than I was expecting, but $45 for this middle pledge is not bad. Now, I don't really need the upgrade kit, but I wish you could just get the gameplay content. And so I kind of wish there was something in between as well here. Because, I mean, the lower pledge levels are fine. The print and play, the regular pledge level is $29, plus whatever shipping is going to be. It's probably going to be another $15, but it seems solid. I'm actually relatively impressed by this one so far. It's doing something, as I've said, differently. And that's what matters here. And $30 does get you 4 expansions included. So that's not bad whatsoever from that aspect. I don't need a 5th and a 6th player probably. I just don't play many at that player counts. Don't need the solo mode necessarily. But I wish you could get the 4 extra expansions. And maybe I haven't found far enough to see. And this is nice because some of those other pledge levels are there. But I mean, again, you're pledge locking content. And I know you're trying to raise money as an indie game. But show me that I can get all the other stuff. Okay. And here we go. Maybe I can, right there. So, all of my critiques in terms of, well, some of the critiques in terms of that is mitigated. Okay. Cool. Different social media stretch goals. And we'll see. I mean, again, this is something that I hope funds because it's not an overly high funding goal. The price is low. And this is the sort of stuff that I think our hobby needs more of. Because I think this would go in a lot of people's collections. But if nobody covers it, if nobody talks about it, that's why I like doing these videos in the first place. So check out those videos down below from the other content people. See if it's right for you. And give it a fair shake. There you go. Castleshire. So a quick look back here, like I said at the very beginning. Here's ARCS. Now ARCS just literally, before I'm airing this video, broke 900,000. Again, very impressive. The Breach and Batman, we'll pull up these because I can't do those values in my head. Batman is almost at 900,000 as well. So that's really gotten a surge. And some of their stretch goals already have started to give mostly RPG, but now with this one, they're giving an extra miniature. Do you want Azrael or do you want Ace the Bat Hound? And it looks like Ace the Bat Hound is getting it. So again, how much of this is split between RPG and board game? It'll be interesting to see where it goes at the end. And the Breach, almost double in 48 hours from where we were less than 12 hours in, which again is an upward trend significantly. Well, I'll go over to Castles of Burgundy though. Castles of Burgundy is still way out in the lead, over 1.2 million euros. So it's going to be tempting. It's going to be down to the wire for Castles of Burgundy for me. No lie there. But again, I'll cover all 3 of these, or maybe all 4 of them again in the near future. So that's it. That is the roundup for this week. Again, at the end here, let me know. Crowdfunding first look, crowdfunding new appeals, Kickstarter. You know, I don't know if it's the thumbnail. You know, I've definitely had less views on this video than I did even like almost a year ago when I was doing these videos. So we'll see. I'll try some stuff out. I went to the format of the thumbnail a while back to ease doing it each week. So there was something consistent because people tell me that that's what matters on YouTube. But maybe I'm not putting my picture on the YouTube channel video as well. Maybe that hurts it. Since I don't know. Funny face. I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying stuff out and seeing what sticks. Sometimes it feels right some days and sometimes it doesn't. So there you go. That's all I got. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Yeah, June's not looking as hot right now. So, you know, you may be able to blow your budget here at the end of May without too much worry right now. Which, I mean, again, that'll change like a day after me filming this because then some other big project will be announced in June. But we'll see. It's always fun anyway when it does that, right? It's fun to be surprised in this hobby. It's fun when things like that, especially at the end, Castleshire, surprises you out of nowhere too. So, stay classy. Have a great day. I'll see you around. Hopefully.